Thank you, Presiding Officer. To ask the Scottish Government what recent assessment it has made of the feasibility of its target to achieve net zero emissions by 2045.
Minister Alistrallen.
The Government's commitment to net zero by 2045 is absolutely unwavering. We are continuing to develop and take forward climate.
We need the Minister's microphone.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, Minister, thank you.
Thank you. Schoolboy error. This Government's commitment to net zero by 2045 is absolutely unwavering. We are continuing to develop and take forward climate policies ahead of the Climate Change Committee's advice on new carbon budget levels due this May. Once we have received this advice, we will bring forward the carbon emission targets via secondary legislation, which will set a deliverable course towards net zero, with the aim of publishing a draft climate change plan to achieve those targets in the autumn.
Annie Wells.
I thank the Minister for that answer. We are beginning to see what happens when the Scottish Government sets ambitious targets for the climate without any concrete plan on how they plan to achieve these goals. Last year, the Scottish Government ditched its target of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 75% by 2030. And in January, Audit Scotland said the Scottish Government is unlikely to meet its 2030 target to reduce car use by 20% due to lack of leadership. And it's now been reported that environmental consultants Ricardo AEA have told the Scottish Government that their 2045 net zero target is at risk of being missed. Can the Minister assure the Parliament that the Government's failure to keep the 2045 target on track will not lead to higher net zero costs being imposed on Scottish households?
Minister.
It should be said, by way of response to those important questions, it should be said that some of the commentary anticipating missing the 2045 targets is applicable only if emission reductions from land use, etc., were not considered, and if no further policies were brought forward. But the Scottish Government, as I say, is entirely committed to 2045. In 2022, the Scottish Government commissioned an analytical report on estimated projection of Scottish emissions from 2019 to 2045, which is published on the Scottish Government website. And this was a snapshot in time, and since then we have been developing policies for the next climate change plan. And the figures for that, as I say, are available. Technology reductions were excluded from emission reduction considerations. Land use will form an important part of our forthcoming climate change plan.
Supplementary, Sarah Boyack.
When the Scottish Government dumped their annual and interim targets, Myra McCallan announced a package of 19 reheated old policies to show the Scottish Government is supposedly taking action. But I have received an FOI response in which the Scottish Government admits that only 4 of these 19 policies have been delivered, and some of those are even questionable. So can the Minister outline the measurable actions being taken now? Because our constituents surely cannot afford missing 2045 as a target, given the impact on their lives and businesses.
Minister.
Well, I could certainly list measurable activities in many areas, from peatland restoration, where good progress is being made towards that, with over 75,000 hectares restored to date. I could mention forestry, with the most ambitious woodland creation targets in the UK. I could mention farming reform and many other areas. But the Scottish Government, as I say, is committed to 2045, and the next climate change plan is being developed to ensure that we get there.
And supplementary, Audrey Nicholl.
Thank you. Scotland is on a journey to becoming a renewable energy powerhouse facilitated by our just transition to net zero. However, this will require the cooperation of the UK Government in projects like the Acorn carbon capture and storage. So can the Minister provide an update on engagement with the UK Government on the Acorn project, a project that is of huge importance to the North East?
Minister.
The member is right on that. Scottish ministers regularly engage with the UK Government counterparts to push for a decision on Acorn. Carbon capture is vital for achieving our climate targets, with advice from the Climate Change Committee describing it as a necessity, not an option, to achieve net zero emissions. Scottish cluster is essential not just to Scotland, where our target of reaching net zero is 2045, but also for achieving the UK's 2050 target. So that progress and investor confidence can be maintained, we are pushing for the UK Government to make a clear and meaningful public announcement by return, and certainly ahead of June, confirming that the UK Government is committed to awarding Track 2 status to the Acorn project and Scottish cluster.